Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I appreciate you taking the time. I see there's a big crowd out here to learn about hybrid cloud, so thank you for showing up. I know we don't have much time, so we will go over through our slides pretty quickly. I hope that you had the opportunity to see our keynotes from yesterday. Our leadership went over a lot of this information, so if you have any questions, feel free to touch base with us afterwards. Hybrid cloud is an important initiative for Microsoft because we understand where our customers are coming from today. Although the path really is to the cloud, and I think many of you have already started down the path of the cloud, the realization is that we know our customers still have a great deal of on-premises real estate that they still have to leverage. And so being able to bring together both the worlds of the cloud and your on-premises environment in a way that makes sense for your business is important to you, and we get that. Today, over 80% of enterprises either have a hybrid cloud strategy or are down the path already of implementing their hybrid cloud strategy and bringing together their on-premises environment as well as Azure. At Microsoft, we've identified 4 areas where we feel that customers are looking to not only integrate their on-premises environment, but also integrate their on-premises environment with the cloud, but also have a consistent experience across both environments. Today, it's not really just about connectivity. Connectivity is table stakes, and you have to have it. But it's really about having a consistent experience across both your on-premises and the cloud environment. So when we take a look at these 4 areas, Microsoft is able to give you that consistent experience across your on-premises environment and in Azure. Today, in areas like common identity, you can use Active Directory and Azure Active Directory to span across your on-premises and Azure in a consistent manner. You can also manage and secure your environment in a consistent manner across on-premises and in Azure. Your data platform goes again with SQL Server on-premises and Azure SQL in the cloud. You'll be able to go across the environments. And then ultimately, application development with things like Azure Stack, which you'll hear a little bit further down the road, and able to develop applications and deploy them anywhere. So we'll go a little bit into each one of these pillars and talk briefly about how customers are using them. Azure Active Directory and Active Directory provides a single sign-on for customers who want to have a consistent experience across their on-premises environment and in the cloud, as well as third-party apps. So many of you, I'm sure, are using third-party applications, whether it's Salesforce.com, DocuSign, Workday, whatever it may be. And you want to be able to provide your users with a consistent experience across all 3 environments or 2. And so Active Directory and Azure Active Directory allows you to have that single sign-on into thousands of apps. These are 3 of the most common use cases that we've seen amongst customers today. So being able to use one identity for all the different SaaS applications, as well as your on-premise and cloud environments. So your users don't have to have multiple sign-ons and struggle with their passwords. IT can better manage identity across all environments and be able to protect corporate information. And then ultimately, developers can have APIs with which they can integrate identity into all of their applications. So as you can see, we have customers even in the most regulated industries, which Merck is, leveraging Azure Active Directory to protect their corporate information and provide their users with a single identity across all the different environments, in this case with Office 365 as well as on-prem. Then we'll move into integrated management and security. So integrated management and security, which if some of you may know as Operations Management Suite, is a holistic portal that allows you to manage and view your resources across your on-premises and cloud environments in Azure. Some of the most common use cases that we've seen in Azure Security and Management is really being able to have that portal across both environments and being able to have all of the visibility that you need. Purdue University was able to leverage OMS, Azure Security and Management, to look across their operations. They had a ton of data and systems which were disparate. And so Azure Security and Management was able to bring that together for them. And then our data platform, which spans through SQL Server for on-prem and Azure SQL in the cloud, along with a ton of analytical tools that we have, such as Power BI, allows you to be able to do analytics across both environments with structured and unstructured data. It allows you to also leverage one common language, which is T-SQL, across both environments, and then ultimately provides you with business continuity, which is one of the use cases that we see most commonly used by customers. Also, many customers are leveraging the data warehouse to do analytics with structured and unstructured data, and then ultimately leveraging SQL and Azure SQL to do analytics across both environments and get rich insights and deep learning. Adam is a customer who is able to leverage SQL and Azure SQL for both business continuity as well as analytics across both environments, and was able to see performance and scale 10 times faster than they could have seen with just on-premises. I'll pass it on to my colleague.
Hi guys, thanks for making the time. My name is Anant, and I'm here to talk about three things. The first thing is I just want to finish the fourth area that Vanessa was referring to, which was related to a unified approach to app dev and DevOps across on-prem and cloud. So that's the first subject. I'll spend a few minutes on migration, and a lot of you, of course, are thinking about, man, my first step is to see what can I migrate to the cloud. So a little bit on that, and then finally I'll just talk about why we think we've got something unique and special here for you guys as Microsoft. So starting with the area of unified app dev and DevOps. So Vanessa mentioned consistency as being the core thing that interlocks both Azure and Azure Stack. Hopefully many of us heard about Azure Stack this week at the conference, the keynotes and so on and so forth. But our strategy and vision is that we are basically birthing Azure Stack out of Azure, right? So Azure runs in our global data centers, and we're actually bringing that to you, to your on-premises environment. So that's basically an extension of Azure in on-prem. So think of it that way. What that means in simple terms is that developers, if you work with app devs in your organization, and you as IT, you kind of get together and deliver a consistent set of services to your business. Your developers are going to be much more productive. They get to just develop one way, regardless of where the application will run. And then you get to actually deploy the application to a location of your choice based on what your business requirements are, be it regulation, be it latency in some cases, be it just intermittent connectivity, frankly, to the internet in other cases. So you have that consistency which kind of ties together our Azure and Azure Stack vision. Now, in terms of what that consistency looks like architecturally, the first three layers are the same across Azure and Azure Stack. They're not compatible, they're actually the same because we actually port and reuse a lot of the code from here to there. As examples, developers get to use the same experiences that they have in Azure, the same PowerShell, the same Azure Shell, the same Visual Studio, which we've built an extension into for Azure Stack. We write to the same API surface area. So Azure Resource Manager is basically the core set of APIs that our Azure services are written to. And we are actually porting that whole API infrastructure on-prem. And then the Azure services themselves. Now, Azure has more than 70-odd services today running in our own public clouds, right? So we are bringing a focused set of services on-prem. So it's a subset coming on-prem based on what you guys need. A lot of our customers use Azure IaaS, but many of our customers use Azure PaaS. So those are the core set of services that we've prioritized to bring to you guys on-prem. Now, the area which is a little different is there are two things which are different about these two stacks. Number one is that you run this yourself, and we run Azure for you, right? You don't worry about managing and operating Azure. We do it. So you run the stack yourself. That's difference number one. Difference number two is that this operates at huge scale. So one scale unit, as we call it in Azure, is close to 1,000 servers. The starting point for this, the infrastructure that runs on-prem with Azure Stack is 4 servers. Right? So it's a great entry point for you guys to experience Azure in a way that extends the public cloud into your own data center. So that's kind of that's the approach that we take to unify app dev, and for you to frankly build the same common set of dev and ops practices across both platforms, and have your developers and IT folks just have one set of skills which are marketable. It's Azure skills, right? Anyone can say, I know Azure, I know how to build on Azure, I know how to operate and manage Azure. So that's kind of the thing that we're enabling for our ecosystem and for you guys. Some great customers and use cases that we are seeing here. There are 3 types of use cases we see. The first one is where, like I was saying earlier, customers want an extension of Azure running on premises because of latency reasons, intermittent connectivity reasons, or just bandwidth reasons. So we are seeing companies, who are in the oil rigs business, right? Schlumberger is a big oil and gas company player who provide a lot of technology solutions to companies who are digging oil wells, for example. So a great solution would be Azure Stack running on premises at remote sites where they dig wells, and they do a bunch of validated of global oil drilling workflow processing and validation that runs on Azure. So it's a great hybrid scenario that works together. This is a media company, Avid, which intends to use a version of on-premises Azure Stack running in their global newsrooms, not themselves, but their customers, right? Think BBC, think CNN. They're running on-premises Azure Stack so that they can render back videos at full fidelity and high speed, zero latency, zero buffering. And they will use Azure to actually process and upload videos which are submitted by field journalists or reporters who want to submit information back into Azure. You caption them, you do facial recognition, you add a bunch of capability or processing to the video and render it back on-prem, right? So great examples of how Azure Stack and Azure work together to enable hybrid. These are regulated industries here, and they need to deploy instances of their applications locally in geographies which are regulated, frankly. Think finance, banking, and so on. And then these companies are saying, man, I want my developers to just have one set of skills. I want one set of common dev and op practices, one common development pipeline, regardless of where the application is going to be deployed, right? So all my changes are for my app, across Azure and Azure Stack are literally encoded into one pipeline of releases, and we release them and just change the deployment location. So again, the DevOps notion and modernizing existing applications, which might need to run on premises for reasons of, because they're legacy applications, they've been running there for a long time, and you need to keep them there, but still integrate it into a common process with Azure. So those are some of the great use cases we are seeing here in this context. Switching gears a little bit, I just wanted to speak quickly about migration, because we are seeing in a hybrid context, a lot of customers tell us, man, what are you doing to make my process of migrating or my migration project or migration initiative easier? So there are a slew of things we are doing, including product capability, licensing programs and offers, and investments we are making to help customers predict and control their costs better. Right, so if you break this down, just customers look at their whole migration initiative as a project. So you want to first discover all the stuff that can be migrated over to Azure. Then you want to actually make sure that you're right-sizing the resources that you want to use in Azure where they will run, because a lot of times customers end up over-provisioning stuff. I'm sure you guys would have done that as well, where you buy a lot of extra bandwidth and storage and compute to run your on-prem workloads, but then this is a great opportunity to save money by right-sizing the type of VMs, the type of storage, the type of virtual networks that you need, right? And then the third piece is actually doing the migration in a manner that is optimized and doesn't introduce unnecessary downtime and stuff. So we've got capabilities that help you do all of this, starting with Azure Migrate, which is a tool which helps you automatically discover on-prem servers and VMs, including dependencies among them, so that you can streamline what can go to public cloud and what needs to run on-prem. We've got a database migration service which can take your on-prem SQL databases as well as Oracle databases and put them in Azure SQL database, again in an automated manner. We've got stuff that you can use in Azure Data Box, which you can literally use to export a petabyte of data to Azure immediately. We've got built-in cost management capabilities. A lot of customers that I've been speaking to this week say, man, I do want to migrate, but I just worry about losing predictability of costs. Even a couple of them even told me, man, I thought that I would save money with the cloud, but I'm realizing that I forgot to switch off my VMs and my monthly bills tend to be crazy, right? So kind of just having a model to estimate how much will you be paying, how disciplined do your people need to be to turn off that VM before they go home, at night, stuff like that. There's great built-in capability in the Azure portal with Cloud In. And then finally, the licensing part, right, where a lot of customers tell us, man, your licensing is complicated. But the reality is that we have programs where customers have bought Windows Server licenses, SQL Server licenses. You can run those same licenses in Azure and save a ton of money. Our match shows it's minimally 40% in most cases, where people say, rather than paying on the go for Windows Server or SQL Server in public cloud, be it Azure, be it AWS, whatever, I can just bring my own licenses, except that only we can allow you to use your on-prem licenses in Azure. AWS doesn't enable that. So it's a pretty straightforward way for you to use your existing licenses to save money on Azure. And we're excited about that. This is an example of a customer who did a wholesale migration. Initially, they started tentatively, but within 8 months, they tripled down and migrated almost all of their mission-critical hospital apps, including a supply chain app, including a hospital, just tracking medical equipment, those kind of critical apps to Azure, because they just felt more and more confident through the whole process that they just said, let me go all in. Great example. Then I just want to quickly summarize some advantages that we have when you guys think about hybrid with Microsoft. So in the 4 areas that Vanessa mentioned, or what we saw, a lot of customers assume that Microsoft is, and Azure, frankly, is just about Windows and .NET, but we just wanted to set the record straight, frankly. If you look at common identity, which is a core requirement for most customers, we have that common identity that bridges almost any application that you have. And it's not just your line of business applications or your customer-facing applications. Even your SaaS apps, we've got one common identity, single sign-on that you can use across Azure, Active Directory, and on-prem AD, which I'm sure most of you use. With integrated management, it doesn't matter where your Windows or Linux workloads run. We have one solution in Azure, again, built into Azure. You just go to the Azure portal, you will see capabilities that allow you to monitor, manage, and update all of them. Again, you can, as an example of consistency across the data platform, you can deploy a Hadoop cluster in Azure, or you can run that Hadoop cluster on premises. We've got solutions with partners like Cloudera and Hortonworks, and you can, again, manage all of them centrally. And then finally, with development and DevOps, you can run workloads like Kubernetes or Dockerized containers or Cloud Foundry or Pivotal Cloud Foundry on Azure Stack. So again, we want to make sure that whatever tools and technologies you want to use, be it on-prem, be it in Azure, these are all Azure Marketplace items that you can use in Azure Stack, which is a pretty big deal. So if you go to the Azure Marketplace, you have a simple way to download those and run them on-prem and Azure Stack, right? So I just wanted to make the point that we are not just about hybrid Microsoft, but it's hybrid open. And a ton of open source technologies are kind of represented across the board here. And hopefully that kind of makes sense to you guys. So like Vanessa said, it's not just enough to have connectivity, but you need to have a way to say, look, I want to reuse the same skills in a consistent manner. You need to use the same technologies, even if they need to span literally a database across on-premises and cloud. I need to have one common integrated management solution that allows me to track my Windows and Linux, all of those, and then the same platform, frankly, with Azure and Azure Stack. All of those requirements are important, and we feel like we're investing a ton through the Azure platform to enable all of those. So the last thing I'll say is this. We've been seeing a lot of comparison between Azure Stack in particular and the recent announcement that VMware and AWS made with each other. So I just, again, just sharing our perspective. Our perspective is that what they are doing is a form of what we call hosted virtualization, which is taking your existing VMware stack, if you will, vSphere or what have you, and putting them in a third-party colocation. So that's basically the crux of what they're doing, and we just feel like it's not anything fundamentally new. But then when you look at some of the innovation that's happening, all of us know where that innovation is happening, right? And I would argue that most of it is happening in cloud, and in many cases, Microsoft is bringing all of that innovation to you on-prem with solutions like Azure Stack, right? So kind of, if you think about the blue sky opportunity that is here, even I have no idea how many more Azure services are going to be invented in the future, right? We were 60 a couple of months ago, we are 70 now, and I just don't know how much new stuff is there, as opposed to this old model of just repackaging what you have today in a third-party data center. So again, it's a matter of you saying, man, do I want the new tech, be it containers, be it serverless, be it microservices, all of these new innovations that we are, of course, enabling in Azure and also bringing to you in your data centers, or do you want to just stick to what you've done in the past? So I just wanted to leave you guys there with that thought, and if you guys have any questions or any comments, feel free to share them. We welcome them. Great. Hopefully this was useful. 15 minutes of your time. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.